Isn't that beautiful? That's a prelude by Frederick Delius, as he became known. German of origin, but then was born in Bradford. And the reason I'm talking about Delius is he is described as the Marmite Composer. Some people absolutely love his music, and some people don't. And I'm on the side of the fence that absolutely loves Delius's music. I think I'm a little bit biased because I live only a few miles away from where Delius was born in Bradford, and in fact I cycle down there quite regular. I also go there a lot because there is the Bradford Literature Festival every year, which is a fabulous festival put on in the centre of Bradford. 2 weeks of amazing speakers and things. So if you're not familiar with the Bradford Literature Festival and love books, I would certainly recommend a trip. Bradford as a place is very multicultural and very rich, and I enjoy wandering around, speaking to people of all faiths. It's a beautiful place, and it has a big water park in the middle, which is amazing, which the kids absolutely love. So anyway, Bradford is a place that I do visit quite a lot. Delius was born in 1862 in Bradford, and whenever I'm in Bradford, I do visit Claremont Road, where Delius was born. It's and brought up. It's a very different place than Delius would have seen as a child. And I know that Delius loved to go up to Ilkley to Calf Rocks, which we as a family love to do. It's a beautiful place to go. In fact, I love Delius because when I go walking, which I do a lot, I feel and hear his music, even though he travelled and went to Florida and Norway and ultimately lived in France. He studied in Paris, but he also persuaded his father when he was quite young to buy him an orange plant in Florida. This inspired, and he studied composition with somebody there, and this inspired one of my favourite works of his, the Florida Suite, which is a fabulous piece, written a long time before Porgy and Bess, for example. So well worth recommending listening to that. As you can see from the notes there on the screen, you can see why Delius is described as being the Marmite Composer. This was overheard towards the end of his life. There was a Delius festival, and this was overheard what two ladies said about Delius's music. And I do hear this. I have colleagues and friends who just don't like Delius's music. The Marmite Composer. Thomas Beecham, the great conductor, was a great champion of Delius's music and edited them and performed them and conducted them. Towards the end of Delius's life, he ultimately caught syphilis, which Milton was blind, Beethoven was deaf. Well, Delius ultimately couldn't use any of his limbs. He was in a wheelchair. He had to be carried around. He was also blind. But a young man from Scarborough called Eric Fenby went there, and I think he lived there about 5 years, and he helped complete some of Delius's work. And this is shown beautifully in Ken Russell's film Song of Summer. I'll put the link for that. It's a beautiful film. It's tragic, actually. It's a tragedy to watch, really, because you see the state that Delius is in. Fenby wrote this wonderful book, if you're interested in this. And that's played out in Ken Russell's amazing film. It's absolutely fabulous. I've watched it a number of times on YouTube. Towards the end of his life, Elgar went to see Delius, and he was very fond of Delius, and they spent an afternoon in Gretz where Delius lived with his wife, Elka. A beautiful place. In fact, Percy Grainger, the great composer, would go to stay with Delius, and one of his challenges was to throw the ball outside the front of the house, over the house, and catch it at the other side, which I find very amusing. So Grainger brought much humour to Delius's life, I think, towards the end of Delius's life. So when I was younger, I used to scour the charity shops for some of Delius's music. So here's some of the great pieces. Seadrift, I would heartily recommend. The orchestral pieces. This includes On Hearing the First Cuckoo in Spring, which is one of Delius's, probably his greatest hit. It's an absolutely fabulous piece. As I mentioned earlier, Florida Suite. There's also a piano concerto, a violin concerto, a string quartet, a cello concerto. The Mass of Life, which was inspired by, Delius was very much a fan of Nietzsche, thus spoke Zarathustra, and he read that and he set some of the words for that for the Mass of Life. There's also many other pieces. He wrote a number of operas. So there's a real breadth of work. There's a piece called Paris, which I really like as well. I'm going to try and put all the links in for those. So On Hearing the First Cuckoo in Spring, a piano concerto, a Mass of Life, the cello concerto, violin concerto, Paris, a great piece called Brig Fair that he wrote. A Village Romeo and Juliet is the opera. I remember buying that on DVD, watching that. So I don't think Delius is like Marmite. This has not been an historical perspective of Delius. It's just my ramblings, a few of my thoughts about Delius the composer. I'm just sharing a little bit of love of his music. If you're not familiar with Delius, or if you are, tell me about whether you like him or whether he is, as the YouTube title says, is he like Marmite for you? For me, he's very special, and I love to play some of his piano pieces as well. So subscribe for more videos like this, and ring that bell, and bye for now.